Welcome back to San Diego Opera Podcast. I'm Nick Ravelis, your host, and our guest today is Seán Curran, who is the director of the Pirates of Penzance. Seán, welcome back to San Diego.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be here.
Very good to have you back. Last time, you were here very briefly during Nixon in China.
Yes.
Which you had choreographed, is that correct?
I choreographed it, and one of the original dancers, who is a member of my company named Nora Brickman, came to restage the choreography. Right. So I stayed for the tech week and got it on stage.
Right, but prior to that, Salome with Lise Lindstrom, which was really exciting.
Yeah, that was a thrill to do that, and Lise was so fabulous, great dancer too. Yeah. And I must tell you that our pirate king, Greer Grimsley, was Yohanahan.
Exactly. We vividly remember the head, modeled on Greer, of course. I think we had it on a platter in the lobby of the office for a number of weeks before rehearsal began. I want to talk to you about this production of Pirates, because you were the originating director, so you brought the creative crew together and all of that. But what I'm really burning to ask you is, what was it about either this piece or Gilbert and Sullivan that drew you to it in the first place?
Well, I'm a musical comedy guy, in my heart of hearts. I thought I wanted to be a musical theater performer, but found contemporary dance in college. And there was something about, a kind of authorship you have with contemporary dance. You're sort of starting from scratch. That appealed to me. But I'll always want to dazzle and entertain and be a showman and look for jokes. So the musical theater aspect of this operetta was really important to me. And I'd done Salome, I directed a few other shows, but this was the first time I was going to have fun and mine the material for the jokes and tickle the eyeball, hopefully with some wonderful choreography, but also tickle the eardrum with some comedy and this brilliant music.
So sets and costumes and all of that, I mean, how did you start in terms of putting the package together?
Well, James Robinson, who is the artistic director of Opera Theater of St. Louis, asked me to collaborate with designer James Schutte. James Schutte did the sets and the costumes. But when we got together to talk about how are we going to do this Pirates, we realized it wasn't a piece you wanted to handle too roughly. In other words, we didn't want to set it in the Vietnam era in the 1960s, right? You have to respect what it is.
Right.
So we knew it was going to be pretty period friendly, but how to go about doing it. And I went to a Barnes & Noble in New York City. There's still one there. I got a book on the history of pirates and art. I got a book about pirate flags, the Jolly Roger. And I looked for Treasure Island in the children's section. And I thought maybe I should read Treasure Island. That's about pirates. Maybe there's some interesting illustrations. But the woman who was helping me was this older, grandmotherly, wonderful librarian type lady. And I said, do you have anything else about pirates? And she said, do you know the book, Pirates Don't Change Diapers? And I had to ask her to repeat it. I thought I heard her wrong. But there was this wonderful children's book called Pirates Don't Change Diapers, a big kind of coffee table size book for a very little kid. Beautiful, vivid, primary colored sort of illustrations. It's about a little boy and his fantasy life with this bunch of pirates. And I bought it kind of as a joke to show James Schutte, thinking I'd give it to my nieces and nephews. But he said, Seán, this is the way in. The children's illustrations suggested a kind of topsy-turvy world, and that is a Gilbert and Sullivan, idea about what they wanted to do.
That's Gilbert's ethos, right?
Yeah, very vivid. It gave it kind of a showbiz finish and kind of pizzazz that we were looking for. And we decided we would do a very theatrical version of the piece. We have our own false proscenium. It's a golden proscenium within the proscenium at the Civic Center. There's chaser bulbs, those light bulbs that you can make flash. And there's a big skull and crossed swords, not crossbones, right at the top. So we are putting on a show. You are the watchers watching. We are the performers performing. And at the end of every number, there's a button. Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum, right? So it's my tribute to British music hall and vaudeville and all that great stuff.
So now, with so many Gilbert and Sullivan shows, there is a little bit of updating in the language, because Gilbert, of course, was satirizing and parodying Victorian society. Sullivan, composers, trying to do pretty much the same thing with opera of the time that he and his wife were seeing at Covent Garden, you know, on a weekly basis. Do we go there? Do we go there with some maybe contemporary political commentary at all?
We go there in a very subtle way, and I won't give too much away, but I will say if you're
I like the word subtle.
Yeah, subtle. You know, I like the idea if you want the audience to come to you, you never want to have to go to the audience. We want them leaning forward.
Sure.
But the sort of it song in Pirates is "I am the very model of a modern major general," and if you listen intently, you might get some pop cultural political references. But you know, the piece is so well put together, we almost don't need to do that much. You know, art does a lot of jobs for us. It holds a mirror up, as Mr. Shakespeare says. We see ourselves reflected. It also tells us about our historical selves, like how we sang 100 years ago or what we dressed like. But of course, artists are changers. All art is political. What you choose to leave out is a political decision.
Sure,
you know?
yeah.
And this is a political piece.
It was then, it should be today.
Absolutely. And, you know, without going too into the gory, grim details, you know, inept leaders and buffoonery and foolishness. But with a wonderful soul and a wonderful heart. And, you know, the other it song for me is Hail Poetry. It's a very short choral piece. It's sung a cappella. But I subscribe to the notion that art can organize a chaotic universe where bad things happen to good people. And I think Hail Poetry reminds me of that.
It just stops us dead for a couple of moments in Act One, doesn't it?
It does
It's
indeed.
just an amazing, amazing moment.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the term topsy-turvy. Your understanding, I would love to know what your understanding of that is as a director of Gilbert and Sullivan.
Well, as a director, I always want to put my eccentric twist on something. And I describe it as speaking an old language in a new way with a contemporary accent. And I think that Mr. Gilbert and Mr. Sullivan knew that by heightening a sense of the ridiculous, of paradox. There's a piece in the show called Paradox that would kind of underscore it and allow the listener or the viewer to go a little bit deeper, to peel back the onion a little bit more, to get to that kernel of truth. Because there's great truth in the piece. You know, I want the audience to leave humming the tunes, but on the way home in the car to talk about the politics of the piece, or at dinner after the show or having drinks to talk about the politics, you know, what's at the heart of it. So there you have it, a topsy-turvy world. You can come in, you know, I like to say buy a ticket metaphysically, metaphorically, commit to the 2 hours, put CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, you know, put it all out of your head and just relax, just enjoy, let it wash over you and let it make you think.
Let it happen, and then afterwards it can hit you know, in some way and at some level.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm delighted. This is our first Gilbert and Sullivan for the company. And I'm so glad that we're opening up that particular door because it's great repertoire.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really fun and interesting and beautiful stuff.
And could I add virtuosic? The performers in this piece have to be triple threats. Great singers, great actors, great dancers, and great comedians, maybe quadruple threats. So it takes the technique, the pipes, you know, as they say in the business, of Greer Grimsley, who has a vast repertoire, right, of Loretta Bybee, who goes back and forth between the musical theater world and the opera world. Our young lovers, brilliant interpreters, wonderful poets. You know, virtuosity is taking something very difficult to do and making it look easy. And people have to remember that. These performers are working so hard. They are so talented. And it's it's a pleasure to bask in their performance every day in rehearsal.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait. Thank you for spending some time with me and with our audience.
Thank
and,
you.
See you opening night.
Yes, indeed.